You got a plate.
Yeah, but then they went back to 6.
Well, as we're finishing up here, thank you to everybody who brought food, by the way. That was delicious. That was delicious. We will do what we always do, and that's start with a little bit of a review. So what did we talk about last time we were together? Yeah, it was a whole week ago. That's right.
Oh, we weren't even here last week.
Oh, well, then you're off the hook. You're off the hook. What did we talk about last week?
Third commandment.
That's right. We kind of went over the second commandment, and we talked about the third commandment. What sort of unique things do you remember, or interesting things that you remember from our discussions?
Any commandment that you break also breaks the third.
Correct. Any commandment that you break also breaks the first commandment. That's 100% correct. It's 100% correct. What else?
Jesus, people on the side, they don't want to go to church.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Talk more about that.
Not realizing the gifts that we receive.
Mm-hmm.
We go to church.
Mm-hmm.
Other than us worshiping God, He's still giving us gifts
Mm-hmm.
and offering us forgiveness that we receive and forgiveness that for the whatever we've done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't realize that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say. A lot of people don't realize that Sundays are really meant to be giving us things, as in God is the one who is acting. God is the one who is giving us His forgiveness, His guidance, and all of that. And it's important for us to remember that. That puts the third commandment back in its proper context. Remember, when Jesus was confronted on the Sabbath, right? What did He say? Sabbath was made for who? Man. Sabbath was made for man. So that we may rest. Very good. Anything else of note that you remember?
We don't have to get to a church.
That's right. I don't have to go to church. I get to go to church. That's right. Point is, go to church. I think we've belabored that for quite some time. Let's dive into the fourth commandment. So we have gotten the first table of the law done. We've looked at that. Commandments 1 through 3, dealing with our relationship with God. That's good. We're going to get into the second table of the law now, beginning with the fourth commandment. What is the fourth commandment? Honor your father and mother. Reading Luther's explanation, what does this mean?
My God said that we do not despise or anger or care other authorities, but honor them, serve and obey them, love and cherish.
Very good. Very good. How do we fear and love God in keeping the fourth commandment? So how do we don't do it? Well, how do we mess up the fourth commandment? One more time?
Doing the opposite of what it says.
Yeah, well, yeah, doing the opposite of what it says. Sure, but how do we do that?
Arguing rules.
Arguing rules. That's a big one. Mm-hmm.
Think about what the rules are, but we're doing what please us.
I think too, if we can't respect and honor the father and mother that's raising us, then we can't respect and honor God.
Mm-hmm.
His authority and his place.
And humans have always had an exceptionally difficult time with authority. We don't like it. We don't like someone telling us what to do at all, ever. And so we've rebelled against it quite often. And it's no different in the closest relationships that we see, right? Between parent and child. We don't look down on them. We don't make fun of them. We don't disobey the rules given to us by not only our parents. Why does Luther, I guess that's a good question. Why does Luther expand beyond immediate father and mother?
I think because, I think I was listening to Proverbs 5 where it's talking about like regretting not listening to the voice of my teachers, my parents and everything. It's like, because all these people are put in place to kind of help you, help shape you and guide you. So if you're not, your mother and your father are obviously authorities in your life, but you may also have your pastors or your Sunday school teachers or your aunts or older siblings who are also there to try to help rear you the way you're supposed to go.
Yeah. It's not just the authority of the immediate people around us, but the authority of the land around us as well, including all the communities that we are part of, from schools to church to, I don't know, the local hiking club, right? There's a semblance that we should and ought to be respecting the authority given to other people. And that can be quite difficult sometimes. It can be quite difficult sometimes. Because what I've seen when this commandment is discussed, and it's almost a little bit amusing when you watch parents and children kind of discuss the fourth commandment in the presence of one another. Because one always has an argument, right? Parents would, see, God says, honor your father and mother, right? And they'll harp on to no end. And then children, will rebel against that and be like, well, some of the things you do, some of the things you say, some of the rules, they seem unfair, and I don't want to follow unfair rules. And there's a point to where, and Luther talks about it as well, and it's a question I think we need to always keep in mind. What happens when your parents aren't very good at being parents? What do you do with the fourth commandment then? How are we supposed to follow the fourth commandment in those situations?
I think it's like in any other situation, if it goes against what God says, and you follow God and you ignore what the person in authority says, because it's worse to break God's law than it is to disobey an authority figure.
Right. So, and that's really the line between the two, is what God commands versus what man commands, right? But let's say, and this is, I usually try to teach this to kids, much to their chagrin. Let's say it has very little to nothing to do with God's commands, only insofar as the fourth commandment applies. Such as, your parents say, go clean your room. What are you supposed to do? Clean your room, right? That's pretty obvious. Why?
Because they said so.
Because they said so. Right?
It doesn't mean being respectful, but hygienic person, there's a reason to keep your mouth clean.
Oh yeah, most certainly, right? The wisdom of your elders, they know that it should be clean, so that way you don't get sick and live in filth. But that is an easy fourth commandment kind of application to follow. Go clean your mouth, right? But things get progressively harder as we age up, because our parents do want the best for us, right? But what if they tell you, or how should we take the fourth commandment? If they tell you to do something that you don't want to do, right? Like a job. Go into this job or don't go into that job. Where's the fourth commandment?
Can you repeat that? I couldn't hear.
Sure. So we looked at a pretty softball example of like obeying the fourth commandment, right? Well, especially as kids get older, those questions become more difficult, right? What if your parents are telling you, do not do this, do not go into this job, instead go into this job? What do? Where's the fourth commandment apply?
I guess we're trying to think about the consequences of not doing what the parents tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many different elements of persuading that can come into play, but the consequences that you're going to have to adhere to from your parents might not be them to suggest that they done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's always something we have to take into consideration, consequences of one's actions.
I think too, I guess it depends on, we're always praying for God's will in our life. And it's really something, and I guess like for some reason age pops into my head too, like right now Shay's 15, almost 16, have to get her permits, all I hear is drive, job. Like that's all that's coming to my head. And I'm like, well, we still have to figure out, like, you don't have to weigh a lot of things, like what time are you going to be working? Is it going to be safe for you there at that time? Like things like that in consideration because of your safety, as parents. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, I guess just like with anything in life, which is probably harder for younger people too, is just having the patience to try to discern what's best. And speak with your parents about it and try to anyway. I know that from experience, that's not always easy to do either. So I guess praying about it, that's always my answer to pretty much everything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a fair answer. That's a great one. It's a great answer, frankly.
Well, there's a difference too between guiding and forcing, right? 'Cause
Yes.
The same thing you're saying, like you push your kids like to do things, right? You want them to be better, you want them to be better for this, and this, but sometimes you go to the point where, well, you should go to this school, you should do this, you should do this. Sometimes we're forcing that issue, right? I want you to do this, it comes to a point where, all of us, God gives us free will, right? So, we hope and pray that our children make the right choices. Our job is to guide them, to give them the ability to make the right choices and do all these things. But to a point, I tell them that the hardest thing for a parent to do is watch your child fail at something. But in certain things, they're going to have to because you can't protect them from everything. So there's a difference between guiding, for me, guiding and forcing.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes, depending on what it is, you have to force the issue. Sometimes you have to guide. It's very hard to know the difference of when you should do that. But kids, even, we have the ability to have free will. Every child from birth till whenever, they have free will. You can tell a little kid no 100 times. It's not, that's just free will.
I think a parent is going to see ahead, and that's what you caught, the child needs to know too.
Right.
They can see ahead, whereas a child can see just now.
Right.
And parent usually is able to see ahead, which would be advisable either, or.
And you're advising your child, there's different ways as they grow. When a child's small, you're more forcing how it is, but even for church and stuff, in our household, that has to be taught to our children. the ways of the Lord and coming to church, and that has to be taught by us. That is not a known thing to a child. To get there, we have to make that happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is advisable, right? Especially in the example I just gave. To have an actual conversation between a parent and a child to see what the root cause or issue is. That's what ought to be happening, right? It doesn't always happen. That's what ought to be happening. Because the responsibility, and here's the other side of the coin, beyond just kind of the fourth commandment used as a cudgel to kind of beat obedience into people, the other side of the equation is the responsibility placed on parents' shoulders, right? You are the representative of God to your child. Point blank. And that is a special and a unique authority given to families in that way. A couple of reasons why. One, the unique bond between the parent and child cannot be replicated. It can't be replicated. Even so, there's the uniqueness, right, of, let's say, natural-born children, right? And there's even a uniqueness that cannot be replicated with those who have been adopted as well. And I want to bring this up because I think it's very profound. What are the two, in regards to family, right? You have the begotten nature of Jesus and the emphasis on father, mother, and that paradigm, right? What is the other monumental family paradigm that we see in Scripture? Huh? Oh, most certainly. Grandparents, right? What's another big theme?
We're adopted into the family.
Yes, adoption. Adoption is a huge thing, right? And it should inform us on how God sees it as well. On how God sees it as well. For example, think of the incarnation, right? Who was of the line of David in the incarnation?
Mary.
Was it Mary? Joseph, there you go.
Yeah.
Joseph was of the line of David. Right?
The line passes through the sons.
Huh?
The line passes through the sons.
That's right.
The line of Judah.
That's right. Now, with Christ being begotten of the Spirit, how seriously do you think God takes adoption then? If even for his own son, it was his adopted father that gave him the lineage of David because of the marriage between Joseph and Mary. That's how seriously God takes these things, right? And that uniqueness, that bond is unreplicatable. You just can't replicate it between parents and a child, whether that child be of natural birth or even adoption. You can't replicate it. And we ought to use this special authority given to us to care for and raise these children to the best of our ability, right? Even when they sound like wild dogs, And who knows what's going on in there. Pray for my wife. I hope I see her later. But I think it's important to keep that in mind. That being said, let's move to the positive aspect. How do we fulfill the fourth commandment?
comes a time when parents will inevitably need some help, some support.
Yeah. Yes.
And it may not necessarily be when they're aged, it might be when they're facing the crisis of
Yeah.
their own. And
Yeah.
I think what makes a family is that you always are there to support and help where it's needed.
I completely agree with you, you know? And I think it's a skill we need to relearn in this modern age. You know? We live very different lives from our ancestors. Think about it. Ye olden days, where did everybody live?
With your parents, with each other. And
Yeah.
your house, with parents,
Yeah, right?
and parents.
Exactly. There you go. Houses were filled with generations, right? From
Relatives stay blocks are a few miles away from each other.
yeah, right?
If you look at it, truly, we're headed back that way. Most kids can't afford to go out beyond that. We are truly headed back to that.
I think we are. I think we are.
Kids can't afford to get apartments or houses depending on their age, even college students, and
Yeah.
and all that's going on. If you look at it, extended family, you have a lot of elderly people moving back in with their children. So we are truly headed back to that point.
And I agree with
Not
you.
on a grand scale of everybody, but it's happening.
Yeah. It's at least shifting that way. And you're right, it's unfortunately shifting that way. I say unfortunate only because of the cause, that nobody can afford anything. That is unfortunate, right? Families living together shouldn't be unfortunate. Maybe it is sometimes. But when we think of the ancient days, people didn't really have an option. I think in this modern age, we perhaps maybe look over just how modern travel has changed our entire understanding of the world. You know? Back in the olden times, like, travel wasn't an option. Not for, like, the average person. At least not travel on the scale that we do it. There was no, you were born on the farm, there was no, I'm going to leave the farm when I'm older. They didn't think like that. Generations stayed in the same place. Generations were in the same house. And people took care of their parents well into their old age. And it was kind of the accepted norm. With modern travel as it is now, most people, and this isn't like a bad thing. I'm just saying, think of it, how different it makes things. Most of the time, you hear, I heard it, probably going to tell my kids this when they're older too, right? Hey, you're about to be 18, get out. Go do something. Go to college, go get a job, go get an apartment, go. And so a bunch of people did. They left, right? And sometimes they come home, but sometimes they don't. And it creates a lot of difficult situations sometimes, you know. I've not been in ministry long, but I've seen my fair share of, especially around end-of-life planning, people trying to coordinate schedules. So-and-so's got to fly in from, Arizona. But they're not going to be able to get here till Monday. And what are we going to do if, this person is called to glory before Monday? What am I going to do with that? There's a lot of complications with that, right? And I think it's this, we've gotten away from the mindset of the responsibility for one another. And perhaps we should be swinging back to that a little bit. Perhaps we should be swinging back to that a little bit. It would help us in our understanding of the fourth anyways. Questions or comments about that?
I think grandparents play a very unique role in influencing and raising their grandchildren.
I agree with you.
And
Say more.
What is your
So I guess it would depend on some grandparents.
I mean, fair enough, sure.
There are,
I would say something, but I have to write home. So.
I shake my hand and he shakes the other way. There are grandparents who do influence them on a positive scale in the sense of that assisting the parent with, with upbringing and helping them. Assisting. But the problem comes in when, as a parent, you have a specific way of how you want to raise your child. That is basically, I'll give you a perfect example.
It's conflict, right?
Yeah, it becomes conflict. For example, Jay at one time wanted his earpiece. And he's still in elementary school, maybe the 8th grade, getting ready to go to high school.
Okay, yeah.
One appears here. And we're saying, no. So when he gets to the 9th grade, he's still talking about wanting his ear pierced.
Where?
His ear pierced. Get his ear pierced. And then his grandmother makes a statement of that. Well, you can get, then he says, well, I can get the earrings that are magnetic, and my ear won't be pierced, but it'll look like it's pierced.
Yeah, okay.
So the grandma is talking about, well, you can get his ear pierced. You can get your ear pierced. And I'm like, no, there's a reason why he doesn't need his ear pierced. Number one, he's not getting his ear pierced. That's it. His dad said so. Number two, you're too young to get your ear pierced. And you're not getting your ear pierced for the right reason. You want to, you let someone else influence you. But I'm raising you, we're raising you, so that you are not to be influenced by other people. You make your own decision. Now, if you're making this decision because, I like your earring, fine. But if you're making it because everybody else has it, it's not good enough. So that, in that aspect, we have grandparents coming in, and it's kind of difficult. People may say, people may say you might be overprotective or too strict because you don't want them to go into certain places. Like, for example, I had to make a very hard decision when one of the young girls invited to a birthday party, a pool party.
Yeah.
I know your parents are not the parents that are going to have friends that I feel will be safe for my child to be there and I not be there. And little girl, you hate to make that decision to keep them from going someplace, but you can't, my excuse was, well, you can't swim, I'm not going to be able to go. And I think that becomes, and grandparents, well, I don't know, you're not going to do it because you're too excited to take your grandchild and show them all, because you're not going to be thinking about what it is that you need, to protect.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's also, growing up, right, you have your parents, you have your grandparents, but there's also generational differences, right?
Yes.
Time frame, right? And I look at my mom and dad, and mom over here, there's things that are happening in our children's lives, and Mom, you'll be the first one to admit that there's things like the internet and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's not something you grew up with, right? So our kids have a different level of outside interference, as I call it, that the older generation didn't grow up having to deal with. So when I say there's generational differences, like in the 50s they had, there was that group, there was the, but there's things that happen in the world as far as technology and what, when I was younger, my parents had no problem letting me go outside and play until the street lights came on. We don't feel the same way because of it. And our kids get bullied sitting in their own bedroom because of the internet, social media.
Yeah.
So we didn't have that growing up. So we didn't have all that. So our idea of protecting our children, it's drastically changed, right? And how we do it, what we do. Because before it was like, well, it's not safe for you to go there. Now we have to make sure it's safe for them to be in their own space. Their own
Yeah.
bedroom, their own this, their own, and it's very, so that's when I say there's a generational difference. Even for us, we didn't grow up this way, but we've had to learn, and our kids are so much smarter than we are about it. But to a point, you know what I mean? Some kids, when it comes to the internet and getting around this and getting around it, it's harder to look at, because before, like I said, you could go outside, if you were getting bullied, you had your safe place at home. It's not that way anymore. So protecting your kids and showing them the right path takes a lot more work than it did before. Especially at certain age levels, right? This. It gets different for age levels, but it's harder. And it was harder for different generations in their time of what they knew was coming to them. Technology was a lot of new going on in the 50s, television, stuff like that. But it's more, technology and all that is more invasive into the family unit in its own home now. Because everybody's on the phone, everybody's on the internet, no matter what, someone's on social media. You look at most people dealing with families, and somebody's looking at something. So, it's there. So it's different. And we have to grow, and the next generation is going to be the same thing. For my kids, they're 24 and 20, it's going to be AI, right? It's going to be this, there's going to be something new every generation, and it gets harder and harder to deal with that. To protect your children.
Kids based on experience. But growing up on the farm, raised by your grandparents, first thing you learn to do is work with your kids. Go out and gather the eggs, you have to get the cows, you have to move one place to the next. You learn to cook, you learn to wash, you learn to iron clothes, you learn to read the newspaper, because every afternoon you had to read to your grandparents an article from the newspaper, so that they will know you are ready to go to the first grade. You learn how to tell time, you learn how to say the prayer from the beginning to the end, you learn the alphabet, you learn the numbers, 1 to 100, all this is being taught by your grandparents. So when you got to the first grade, you were ready to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So now, with the kids going to preschool and everything, some of them are not even prepared even though they're going there. But the grandparent had a strict rule. When you didn't do what you were told to do, you got to switch on your lips. It didn't hurt you, but it hurt your feelings enough that, hey, I got to whoop. But the thing about it, that whooping didn't last forever. But what about the whooping when God decides to lay it on us?
What?
That's true. It's going to get that one.
Yeah, and it's much like, and I think kind of collectively, it really points to it. We are living in an age that I'm going to be honest, even I don't understand. I don't understand half the things going on around me. Parenting is different, only in the sense of we are now dealing with unique problems to this age of technology that hasn't necessarily been having to deal with before. And I hope that with how we all have been reflecting, I hope that it tells you just how monumental of a task the Lord has placed upon the shoulders of parents, right? How do you do it? How do you do it without Jesus? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question, because my answer is I can't. There's no way. There's no way I get it half right, a quarter of it right, if I'm doing it on my own. But when parents turn to God, children naturally follow. Children naturally follow. They mimic us, for better or worse, they mimic us, right? So we lead them. And then if they follow the fourth commandment and we are leading them properly, things go well. In fact, it goes so well that the Lord has attached a promise to the fourth commandment. Do you happen to know what it is? Your days will be long in the land.
I was going to say that too. It's like, hey, if you do this, your parents won't have to go take you out and have you stoned for.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true.
I mean,
Yeah, you won't.
Anyway, it's like, that's a grace, but I mean, it's still life. when you get older, you know, when we see the police cars or, you know, things like that, you might end up in one of those because you're not making the best choices. When you grow up, if you put your hands on somebody, what do you think's going to happen to you? You know, like, you're going to end up maybe in jail. Like, you have to make these choices now and learn how to listen. That way, as you get older, like, and it's not going to be perfect right now. You know that. Everybody pretty much here has had kids.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like, we're just trying to make you understand, kind of in that same sort of area, in a way of thinking, like, if you know, nobody's perfect, obviously, we're all sinners, but we're going to try our best to make these good choices so we can avoid many of those consequences.
Yeah, 100%.
Like bite-sized pieces to the 3-year-old. And it's kind of the same gist, it's just in our time now.
Oh, yeah. This is not a new... So Luther wrote, it's in the Large Catechism regarding the fourth commandment, that if you don't listen to your parents, you'll listen to the state. And if you don't listen to the state, you'll listen to the hangman.
That's been
Yeah. Yeah. This has always been true. If you don't listen to your own parents, you're more than likely not going to listen to any other authority, right? And eventually, not listening to authority catches up with you. It catches up with you. And the state will force you to listen, one way or the other, you know? If it was true in Luther's time, it was true before then, and it's true now. Right?
I think you gotta be a little careful, you want to frighten the minor at that age.
Yeah, no, that'll be all right.
He still knows he can go to the police or call them, you know. We
Yeah.
call that too, but just the more.
Terry, I think we used to tell way worse stories about the woods back in the day, you know? I feel like we had, there was some pretty bad ones we used to tell kids.
Did it scare you?
Huh?
Did it scare you?
Oh, I've always been afraid of ghost stories. I'm more talking about, have you ever read like the collection of medieval poems they used to tell the kids? It's like terrifying creatures in the woods, and if you go out at night, if you don't listen to mom and dad, they'll eat you. They'll just eat you. And so, you know.
What's the one that is the Krampus?
Oh, Krampus, yeah. Yeah.
Germany is Krampus. If you
Yeah, that was a.
You want to get Santa Claus or Cole, you're getting Krampus.
That was a children's story. They were like, yep, that's entirely appropriate for kids. Maybe they'll be good.
No, yeah, Krampus is...
Yeah.
My grandmother was German. Yeah, knows about Krampus real early.
Yeah.
Put you in a sack and take you away.
Yep.
We don't do that.
So, from our side, God attaches a promise to this commandment, which shows us how He views it, how important He actually views the fourth commandment and thus obeying and following it. So He attaches a promise to it, and it's good stuff. Any questions or comments on the fourth
I
commandment?
think the big word is respect when it comes to parents.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why even when they're not good at it, right? When we fail as parents, or when our parents have failed, right? We still respect the office that they've been given. This is not a hard concept, I don't think, for people to follow. Well, maybe it is. I don't know. In this modern age, it's getting a little dicey. But even if you don't like the President of the United States, right? You're still supposed to respect the office of the President of the United States. That comes with a certain authority and a certain power, right? We all collectively understood that until 5 minutes ago. You know? The last 8 years of political turmoil in our country has been, frankly, sort of unique in the sense of we had a long period of people not doing this.
You didn't live through Nixon.
I did not live through Nixon. You're right. You're right.
Well, I think in general, the word respect, you know what I mean? Look, you don't have to agree with people, but respect the process that they have an opinion. It's there. You don't have to agree.
Oh, yeah.
Freedom of speech, all these things. But even in the family dynamic, you want your children to respect the parent, right? But you also want them to respect the grandparent or elders and stuff. We may not agree, what grandma had to say, but we want our kids to respect them. So there's that fine line too of respect. Like, hey, look, I don't want to raise my kid that way. I appreciate you being there and being around, but help me. This is a path I want to take, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's what we all have to remember, even more so in today's society, that we have to respect one another. It's not about, if I disagree with you, I get to shoot you. If I do this, you know what I mean? It's too easy now. And even on road rage or this, you can't even, like, if you're talking to someone, you think twice about giving your opinion about something because you don't know how they're going to react.
Yeah.
Even people you know very well, there's certain things, like, over the past, 10, 15 years, two things you don't talk about: politics and religion, right? It's guaranteed that in your head you're like, maybe I shouldn't go there. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
I'm no fun at dinner parties.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is those are two subjects that most people are afraid to talk about.
I won't even talk to my relatives about it.
Right. I mean,
Well,
I thought a house divided was bad coming down there in Alabama over, but it's just very difficult if we don't respect one another.
yeah.
In all aspects.
This is why,
We need to
well,
listen
obviously.
listen and respect.
Right.
Yeah, which is, it's obvious people need Christ. And that sounds so dumb to say. But if your starting point is from the worldview God has given you, right? And you believe that God has created all things, right? We can look at people and still respect that about them. That alone is enough. God made you, so I'm not going to murder you. I'm not going to steal from you. I am not going to bear false witness or lie about you. I will not covet your things. All of that is dependent solely on respect for God.
Right.
The Lord created this person. That alone means I'm going to act in such a way that the Ten Commandments apply to you, just as they apply to me.
And they need to be in church from very, very young to start young.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We all have to be taught how to be kind. It always amazes me that children, babies, don't have to be taught how to take things from other people. They don't have to be taught that. That came pre-programmed, or the fits you throw when you don't get something. I didn't have to teach Annie any of that. That was default. She came with that setting, So it's important to teach our kids early.
We do the very best we can with our children. And in our prayers, we pray for protection and peace.
Yeah.
And we know God is going to provide us protection, but we don't want to push that. But we want our children to trust us, to come to us when there is an issue with people. And we want them to know when and how to walk away, because as a parent, we don't know how we're going to react when it comes to our children.
Yeah.
No matter how much we pray, we don't know how we're going to react to that.
Because
we have
it's a
to
mechanism.
depend on that promise that God made us, that He will never leave us.
Yeah.
And we can, all that we can do is hope for that. And continue to depend on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's it. As long as we are looking at life through the way God has told us to look at it, things actually become a lot more easy and make a lot more sense, right? I can know what to do because I've seen my God do it. So I will try to do what He has done. Any other thoughts or comments on the fourth commandment?
I would say one other thing too that I was thinking about recently, kind of based off something that somebody said, basically like, the person was talking about with conflicts or some sort of protest about something that the church or community was doing, and this person was just like going at them and screaming, screeching, whatever, kind of hateful stuff, and they just kept like, didn't respond, just not responding, just praying, whatever, and then kind of like making the point that, they probably want a reaction. And it's not like ignoring them, but more so, like you said, you're made in the image of God, so I'm not going to murder you, I'm not going to, but like showing where Christianity ends is ultimately probably obviously victory of Jesus would be you are just recognizing and loving that person who's in front of you at that moment, like your neighbor, like your neighbor. So like if it's your child or if it's somebody who's screaming weird, ungodly stuff at your face that they want to do in your kid's school or something, showing them love versus just like exploding back at them is ultimately, even if in that moment they don't realize like, oh, that person's a Christian, that's why they didn't get so upset. It might still sink in and kind of help us see a little bit because they might be like, oh, it could even be years later, they might think, like, oh, why didn't that person get mad at me and punch me? Oh yeah, probably because they have Jesus and they were loving me in that moment and not giving me back whatever I was putting at them. So I think that was really good to think about. So I've been thinking about that for a while. Not that I'm going around screaming at people. In the times we're living in and the things we're seeing happening, I think it's good for us to kind of prepare ourselves, just not to go looking for trouble, but to realize it's probably coming at us in all different areas of our lives at this time. Whether you have kids in school or kids trying to build families, or you're just going to church. So just remembering that we have to love these people regardless, without having to scream stuff back in their face.
Oh, yeah.
Because God made them and they're important. And
Yeah.
we're not going to hurt them or take from them or any of that. Anyway, sorry.
No, don't be
Added
sorry.
to the whole thing, it just
No,
makes
I think
sense.
you want to teach your kids, like what Anthony was saying, what Sarah was saying. You're teaching them not to put themselves in situations like, why don't you want me to go to this party? Well, we don't know who's going to be there, and these are the things that could happen, right?
Yeah.
So, they're not thinking like that, like, I just want to go be with my friends. Yeah, but look where you are, look at what's around there, I'm not talking about just your friends, there's going to be 150 people there. I don't know. So you're trying to teach your kids not to put themselves in situations. I think where kids miss the boat is their situation is this, we're looking at this situation, right? Your kids want to go and be part of a march, I'll just use a protest or something. This is what happened, this is what you think you're going to see, this is what we think is going to happen, and we're trying to teach you not to put yourself in a situation. And, that's our job as parents, is to show them what it looks like at 30,000 feet. To say, this is what you want to do, but what if this happens, what are you going to do? How are you going to react? And, especially it's like age groups too, right? But it's situational awareness and making better choices before you put yourself in that situation.
And you allow them to make that choice. And you ask them those questions to make that choice, and if they have no choice except for I will go, then therefore you don't need to go.
Yeah.
And that's what they need to realize, is that also as parents, and I think as parents we have to set an example too. Okay, there are places that we wanted to go, but we had to sacrifice not going either to provide for you and have some place for you to go that we could go. So if you understand that, hey, I've been there, done that, it's still the same, it's the same playbook with different characters. I mean, every generation says, well, we didn't do this. I mean, I can say in the 70s, we didn't do this. Jay and some other adults will probably say, well, we didn't do that. They'll tell me, well, we came up, we didn't go through this. Every generation, like you say, is different. And we all have different challenges. Like I said, it's the same playbook, it's just different characters. The devil has no new tricks. What he did was just rearrange, made it to where you were more exposed to it. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
when my mom was growing up back in the 50s, the telephone was the first thing. have that party around. I mean, everybody can hear what we're saying. There ain't they got privacy. Now look what we have. We have complained about, every society has complained about,
Yeah.
somebody who's gay. But now, look at what we have now. People want to change their whole sex because they can't deal with being accepted as gay, or everything has changed. For everything that we have complained about, something else comes out of it, and that's what the devil does. If we complain about it so much, more of it's going to happen. It's not going to go away until we leave this good earth. I mean, most of us already know that. But the more that you complain and grab about stuff and don't discuss it and God and like Jesus did, then we're going to have these same issues where we can't cope or feel that there is no hope. And that's all the things that we live in a society where it seems like there are more people who don't have hope.
Yeah.
And people are more isolated.
Oh,
I think,
100%.
as much as we know, one lesson I think that we should learn from like COVID is the isolation of people is more and more. We have people all over the place that are isolated. They may come to even in this church, but outside of this church, they're isolated, right? And I think that as people, whether it be the church community or just a community, we have to really look at that because the isolation is really destroying people's hope, right? Because they don't have anything to hope for, like they're by themselves. So as much as they're just existing, and that's kind of sad. And it's very eye-opening to me. Is that the isolation of people? Even you could be in a crowded room and still feel isolated because you don't know how to reach out to somebody or do this. So it's not about you're just alone in your living room watching TV. Isolation can happen in front of 1,000 people. And I think that's a very contagious moment, and that's where, going back to what you said, the devil and what he does. The whole thing with the devil, he isolates people, turns them against this, and makes them feel despair. And if you look at our society today, isolation, and really during COVID, was massive.
Yeah, I think that's when it probably hit a lot of normal people, I guess.
Yep.
A little bit, yeah, kind of the masses. Because in regards, one more thought on the fourth commandment. In regards to this, right, does this commandment stop at any point in time? Is there an end point to it?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Does this commandment end?
No.
No.
No commandments.
Correct. But I make this as a very pointed point. This is not new. This is very old. People used to do this right in Jesus' time as well. That's what he got on the Pharisees for. But I can't tell you how many times I've seen, both in vicarage and the early parts of my ministry, right? I will go to nursing homes, and I'll be the only visit people get for that month.
Some of them for years, or not at all.
Correct. And let me be very clear, right? This is not a chastisement against suffering or situational financial issues or things of that nature. What I am saying, though, is I think it would do us well to remember the fourth commandment and remember our parents in their old age, right? There's nothing wrong with nursing homes, but people should go visit their parents. Their pastor shouldn't be their only visit for a month. You know what I mean? And I think that is a fourth commandment issue, right? Again, let me make this clear. Putting or having parents go into a nursing home is not sinful, it is not evil, it is not bad.
But forgetting them.
But forgetting them is.
Because then you're not honoring.
Correct. It's not the facilities that are the problem. It is visiting schedules that are the problem. And I've seen that a lot. And I hope to see less of it in the future. At least in the sense of people going to see their folks, right? It's not the facilities that we should have a problem with. It's people actually going and taking care of and spending time with their folks.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but if you think about it, back in the day, the facilities were the problem, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, I remember I had an aunt, and I was a little kid, and she was in a nursing home. And going there was the most depressing thing in the world, not because of the people. They were just isolated because they just had a room. There was no day room areas. Now nursing homes are totally different. You know what I mean? From what I remember going to visit as a kid, it's more community-based and stuff like that. Where
Oh, yeah.
back
Absolutely.
in the day, it was more institutional looking.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's important for us to keep that in mind, right? Don't forget about the elderly. Don't forget about the elderly. We should take care of them. Any other questions or comments on the fourth commandment? I guess we'll start fifth commandment. What is the fifth commandment?
Thou shalt not murder.
Very good. Reading what Luther wrote, what does this mean?
This is fear and love God so that it may not hurt or harm our neighbor in his body, but doesn't support him in every physical need.
Very good. Very good. Who is our neighbor? Yes. Yes, that is true. Particularly, and this is from Christian Questions and Their Answers, also in the study, Small Catechism. From the moment of conception, every person whom God has created is our neighbor, and especially anyone in need of our help or assistance. Why is it important to make that distinction?
Some people think that the unborn don't matter. They're, I call it genocide. I don't know how you feel about that. But that's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. From the Christian viewpoint, it's from conception, right? Which means that we have every pregnancy is a little neighbor. It's a little neighbor that we ought to protect. That's so important for us to remember now, especially given the arguments for abortion, pro-life, and pro-choice, and people's feelings on that. What does God say about babies in the womb?
He says, I have formed you. I know your future.
That's right. I love the language of the Psalms. I knit you together, God says. I knit you together. Anyone else? This is so dumb. This is dumb, but I love it anyways. Ever notice how what we visualize DNA strands look like? Crochets? You know? Someone knit that together? I don't know. That's a little mystic of me, but I really enjoy that imagery. So from the moment of conception, our neighbor is there, and we ought to help in whatever way that we can. How do we understand breaking the fifth commandment? There's like one obvious way. What's that one? Yeah, murder. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, murder. That's pretty obvious, right? You shouldn't stab or shoot people or beat them to death. That's bad.
Or rape them.
Huh?
Or rape them.
Yeah, or rape them. Absolutely. You don't do that, right? These overt acts of physical violence, right? And that's pretty easily understandable for us about how wrong that is, you know? But is that what all the fifth commandment encompasses?
No, you shouldn't hope for anyone to ask for anyone to be killed. You shouldn't incite for anyone to be killed. You know what I mean?
There we go.
Say,
Yeah.
"Get in the ground, kill him." You know what I mean? Even
Yeah.
if you're not the one who did it, you ask for it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if you wish for it to happen.
Absolutely, right? I think we sometimes get a little schizophrenic about the fifth commandment, because on the one hand, no one wants to think they broke the fifth commandment, right? So we usually default to, well, like, I haven't slit anybody's throat, so like I haven't broken it. I didn't break the fifth commandment. You know? When in fact Jesus has told us the full extent of these things. We can't wish somebody dead.
Your thoughts can provoke that.
Yeah, exactly. Right? The exact words of Jesus are what?
You have hate or something.
Even if you were to call your brother
Rock,
Raka, which means,
like you're worthless.
yeah, you fool.
Yeah, you're a fool.
Yeah.
Basically implying that they're worthless and they don't have like dignity or anything.
Yeah, exactly, right? Now, let's be fair. I'm pretty sure, well, not for you, obviously. All of you are saints. But I can imagine perhaps a word more harsh than fool coming out of my mouth every now and then, you know? Like, if that's the standard, that I can't even say to a brother, like, you're kind of stupid, you know? Like, that's the standard I'm supposed to uphold, you know? So even our words, our thoughts, our ideas are all encompassed by the fifth commandment. What else does it do? So we can't do those things. How else do we break it?
Planting bad seeds.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
Oh, saying something that will, I won't say kill a person's spirit.
Yeah, okay, yeah, absolutely.
Every word is killing on the body or killing on the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they both kind of run hand in hand.
Absolutely, completely agree with you.
Yeah, killing someone mentally, I agree, is just as bad as, can be just as bad as killing them physically.
Breaking their will to live, breaking their concentration, causing them to go a different path, a worse path. Absolutely. What else?
Dismiss them.
Oh.
Not caring for them at all. Passing by them, or you see they're hurt or going through a crisis and not offering assistance.
Right. It's exactly right. So not only can we actively hurt somebody, right? We can passively hurt them by neglect. Yeah. What parable is that?
The Good Samaritan.
The Good Samaritan. Yeah, that's right. Jesus didn't say like the priest and the Levite were good, did he? He painted them in an extremely evil light, right? They see this dude who's been beaten and he's bloodied and he's dying, and they just kind of they cross the other side of the road. And Jesus didn't depict that as good. He was like, that's bad. But it was, in fact, the guy that you guys all hate, the Samaritan. He is the one who showed mercy. And I'm sure the Pharisees, through gritted teeth, right? Jesus was like, who was the correct one? And they were like, the Samaritan. But they didn't even say that. He couldn't even bring himself to say that. It's the one who showed mercy, right? Couldn't even say Samaritan. Man. So, if that's kind of murderous, as it were, in breaking of the fifth commandment, how do we keep the fifth commandment? What do we do instead? That's God pleasing.
Love thy neighbor.
Love thy neighbor. Yeah. Yeah. And what ways do we do that? You come to their aid, right? If you have the means. That is also another important distinction, right? For example, at least this makes sense in my head, right? I wouldn't offer to build someone something because I don't know how to do it, right? I wouldn't go, hey, let me aid you. Let me build you a deck. And I don't know how to build decks. What's going to happen? Probably going to hurt them more than I help them. Or myself. Right? So there is some limitations that we have to put on ourselves, right? But if you are able, you lend aid. You lend aid. What's a way that we can at least lend aid? Say we're not able. What is a way that we can still help? Very easy way. Pray for them, absolutely, right?
Have mercy, charity.
Yeah.
Ask them if you need some help, come help.
Listening to them is needed.
Yeah, right? Also, something simple, redirect, right? If they're like, here's my problem, and you go, I can't help with this problem. But I know so-and-so who might be able to help. Let me give them a call. I understand that's not applicable in every scenario, but that's a way, I just wanted, another way to think about to follow the fifth commandment is, if I can't help, let me try to get you to someone who can. Make sense?
Yeah, so therefore, really, all of us are capable of doing something. We have no limits. Really.
That's right. As far as, in what ways could I do something? Right? We have no limits. Still limitations on, I don't want you to go out and be like, Pastor told me to, get myself into the poorhouse by giving everyone everything. Like, no. Within your limits. But we should strive. We should strive. So we come to the aid of our neighbor. We speak well of them, right? And we speak to them well. Tori and I have recently picked up a new habit. And we now argue in Old English. And I can tell you that arguments have gotten so much better between us. Because we have to actually think about what we're saying. And it's so funny because whenever we conceptualize about ye olde English, right? It's always kind of polite. Maybe a little bit passive-aggressive, but you are forced to be somewhat polite, right? Formal ways of speaking, as it were. And it's amazing what kind of difference that makes when you actually try to speak well.
What does it sound like?
Uh-oh. That's for me to know.
Maybe it's passive aggressive.
Huh?
Maybe it's passive aggressive.
It is somewhat passive-aggressive, right? But it's really funny.
You're speaking so sweetly to each other.
What's the difference in that and saying the bless is hard?
Nothing. It's just Southern speak, right? I will say, it's like I said, it's funny. It's gotten funny. It usually breaks a lot of tension, right? But attempt to speak in a way that helps or defends our neighbor, right? And then we treat our neighbor with kindness and compassion. Treat our neighbor with kindness and compassion. Again, to the best of our abilities. The fifth commandment was kind of short. Do you have any questions on it? I feel like it's pretty straightforward. Questions or comments? No? Well, we got through another 2 commandments today. I know. We are doing good. We're halfway there. 1 through 5. Hopefully 6 through 10 will be just as easy, and we'll move on to the creeds. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you.